Right on time. Okay, look, hey, let's get started, all right? Because I got things to do in the lake, and I got a lot to cover with y'all today. I'm going to be covering the law of the harvest, something that I've been working on for a couple of weeks now, and I'll post the slides and my actual blog on there afterwards. But again, it's all about growth, right? It's all about growth and what we do and how we do it. So let me share the screen. And here's been our journey so far as it comes up, right? We've gone through quite a lot of things, but it's all about growth, continuous growth, and we cannot stop growing ever, ever, ever. So today we're going to talk about the law of the harvest. Ryan and I we're talking about this a couple months ago. We're talking about how farmers do things and how they harvest, and just the techniques and the savviness and even the intuition that they got to have a plentiful and a bountiful harvest. And so I thought, well, you know what? How can we tie that to personal development? Sure enough, there was a correlation. And so and I'm going to share that with you. Okay, so continuing with our growth concept, right? It's to increase by natural development, increase in size and substance. I got a new quote for you down there below. I cannot force fruitfulness in myself or others, okay? So the key thing about the law of the harvest is that you can't force it. It can't be forced. There is a process and you have to follow the process. If you don't follow the process or circumvent the process in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you're not going to get the harvest that you either want or can have, because we have to be patient at times. And let me tell you, I'm the most impatient person there is at times, especially with growth, with business, even achievement and results, because I've been used to such a high rate of pace in the Army for 25 years that I just didn't have time to slow down, or I didn't make time, I should say. I didn't make time to slow down. So what does all this mean, the law of the harvest? So you can't harvest what you don't plant. Let me say that again. You can't harvest what you don't plant. So let me start off like I do in the mornings here and get some thoughts. Myra, what does that statement say to you?
Okay, I say that again, Luis.
What? So you cannot harvest what you don't plant. What does that statement say to you?
Well, it means that if you don't plan to plant, you're not going to harvest.
Nice.
You've got to plant the seeds.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, we're going to talk about sowing. We're talking about seeds. So thank you for that. Mary, what about you? What does that statement tell you?
Well, same as Myra, you need to plant it, but also you need to realize if you plant apple seeds, you're going to get apples and not oranges.
I love it. Yes. It's about planting the right seed, right? So what are you desiring? What is the growth that you're looking for? Because you're right. You're going to get what you sow, right? You're going to reap what you sow. And sometimes we look back, it's like, how did I get this? I was like, well, take what you did, what you sowed, and then that'll let you know, right? So what do farmers do year after year? Does anybody have any experience in farming? Anybody? Farming or of any type of cultivation or anything like that?
Yes.
Tell me, what's your experience with it, Myra?
Well, you've got to prepare the ground, and that starts in the fall after the harvest.
You've been reading my notes.
Prepare the
Come
ground.
on.
And then you have to plow, and then you have to plant. And like Mary said, if you plant the wrong thing, you're not going to get what you thought you got.
Love it. Love it. Okay, what else? Anybody else have some thoughts on what farmers have to go through? What's entailed in the entire harvesting process?
I would think that they have to fertilize or feed the ground.
Okay.
They have to water it. They have to, enrich it.
Yes.
Right? To get the best out of their harvest.
So I've heard some soil preparation. I've heard some fertilizing. I've heard some sowing. Lee Resnick, what do you think? Anything else to add? Nope. Can't
I
hear
would add
Lee.
something.
Go ahead, Mary.
Well, you got to weed the ground. You got to get rid of the garbage.
Oh, nice. Right? Because if not, those weeds will choke it out, right? Choke out the good harvest. Okay, awesome. All right, so my question as I go into continue on is, what are you currently harvesting? How are you preparing for your harvest of growth, right?
Sorry, Luis, I got lost. I couldn't
Go
get
ahead,
myself
man.
off. I'll tell you what, working from a cell phone is a little harder than a computer, but I didn't want to miss the call.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
No, I definitely agree with what's been said so far. I mean, the notion that you need to plant your seeds before they can harvest is absolutely true, and I found it to be true in everything I've done historically. So.
Great. Skip, my dear brother from another mother, what's your take on all this?
Okay. Good morning, y'all. I wasn't an Aggie at TCU. I think that's more an Oklahoma thing. A soon.
Whoa! Hey, look, I'm
Sooner
going
thing.
Hawaii today. I'm going Hawaii today. Come on, 'cause I'm going late. Let's go.
So when I look at that, those are the obvious gems before us. One thing that the seed makes me think of something. This seed was something that was predetermined. We don't get to craft the seed. We get to unfurl the seed. And when I apply that to our personal development, our personal journey, the law of the mirror, the law of reflection, what is your seed? Sometimes we plant ourselves thinking we're going to have an apple orchard. Is it possible that you're eating those things and they're actually peaches, but you're thinking they're apples and you're telling everyone else they're apples? So back to the seed. Know your seed.
Yes, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. That's, again, gives me another great perspective. Because you're right. I mean, do you know your seed, and is the seed good? Well, and obviously in the Bible tells us the parable of the sower, the seed was always good. But the sower had to sow the proper seeds, had to keep sowing that, right? So as we look at a process, right? What is your process, right? What is your process of personal growth, and can you follow it? Can you have the discipline to follow through with it without getting derailed? So let's look at the first thing. There's 5 steps in the process, right? The first one is preparation of the soil. Meyer, you mentioned that, right? Again, I think you looked at my notes, but that's okay. Preparation of the soil. So all farmers know that in order to achieve a harvest in the fall, they must first prepare the soil, right? Just like you said, as soon as the harvest in the fall is done, they start preparing the soil and into the spring and all that. But they have to do this process called subsoiling the ground, and they really have to till it and get into it. And like Mary said, they get the weeds out of it to prepare it properly. And so as a leader, we must prepare and ensure that we're cultivating the proper soil. And for me, what this brings to mind is it begins with preparing my mind, right? The soil is my mind. To receive the nutrients of personal growth, I must remove all obstacles and roadblocks, distractions, those weeds, right? I can attend countless conferences and read endless books and listen to up-teen podcasts and everything, but I will be wasting my time if I don't prepare my mind, aka the soil, for the sowing and growing that is going to take place. Okay, so prepare your mind. Prepare your mind first. and then have a connection from your mind to your heart, because they help each other out. And when you have your mind and your heart, hey, your body's going to follow. Your actions will follow if your mind and your heart are in alignment and ready to go, ready to receive the seed when it comes, right? Because the next step is sowing, right? Once a farmer does all the subsoiling and prepares the soil, the ground is prepared and ready for that sowing of the seed, the right seed, right? We talked about, Skip mentioned the proper seed that they wish to reap in the fall. So two important aspects of this step: the actual sowing and the proper seed. So Skip, you too have read my notes. You probably read my blog, bro. That's probably what it is, right? So you have to have the proper seed. If you don't sow, you won't reap. Similarly, if you don't sow the proper seed, you won't get the intended harvest. So in person, what does that look like for personal development and growth? Well, I must continuously sow the proper seeds of growth if I want to achieve continued success. Do I have a personal development plan for the season ahead? Have I completed a personal SWOT analysis that I can share with those that I trust, that really give me a good picture and give me perspectives of where I currently am and where I want to grow? What books am I reading? What am I listening to? Are those books and podcasts and anything I'm listening to geared towards personal development goals I've established in that personal development plan, right? Do they enable the growth that I'm doing to help those seeds grow that I have sown in the ground? And then the next step is fertilize, right? Farmers know that soil alone is not sufficient to grow a plentiful harvest. They understand that they must fertilize the crop. And, oh, by the way, not only the proper fertilizer, but the proper quantities also have a tremendous importance to help the crop grow. So who's fertilizing my growth? How am I fertilizing my growth? Who are my coaches and mentors? Because let me tell you, all world-class performers seek and have coaches and mentors. Have I shared my self-development plan with them? How am I maximizing each day to fertilize personal growth through the different seasons of life, right? Because once that seed is sown in the ground, there's going to be different seasons that are going to come along. And am I prepared for those seasons? Do I have other folks in those seasons that could be my lid lifters, right? Because I'm going to reach a lid. I mean, the reason I'm growing is because I've reached the lid and I want to grow. I want to lift that lid. And I can't do it because I've reached that lid. So who are my lid lifters? And in order to fertilize that seed that has been planted, again, always looking to the future harvest that I've set, right? And so we prepare the soil, we sow the proper seed, and then we fertilize in proper amounts throughout the seasons. And then the next thing we have to do is irrigation. Okay, so for farmers, this step is utilized when water is not readily available, right? Where they can't just get the water to it. And the three main techniques that the farmers use is either they flood, they drip, or they spray irrigate. And for those of you on the West Coast, you see that all the time through the California farms in Midwest. You see all different types of ways to do, but each has its pros and cons. But the essential point is knowing when and how much to irrigate, right? So what does that look like in personal development and growth? There will be times when I encounter droughts during the seasons, right? During these times, I'm gonna need to irrigate to ensure my personal growth keeps going and the crop doesn't stall, the harvest doesn't stall, or it doesn't stifle the growth of the harvest that I'm looking for. So who am I choosing to surround myself with during these droughts? Who are my champions and motivators? How much time am I spending to think and learn about new techniques, right? Am I trying to do everything, or am I just trying to focus on the best things in my calendars? You know, John Maxwell once says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? And that tells you that you need to grow. Get in a room that you get challenged, Don't be afraid. I've struggled with this. I mean, truth and transparent, I have struggled with this where people challenge me and I'm like, whoa, that is totally different than what I've thought before. And when I got to the Army War College, it really helped me to think from a different way of, hey, if what they just said and thought is different from mine, why? Do I believe that? Why do they think that? How can I see it from a different perspective? How can we have a professional conversation of growth and maybe, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And I got to change the way I'm thinking if I really want to grow exponentially to the next level, right? So be aware of your personal development droughts throughout the seasons and have those irrigation options available to work through them, right? And those irrigation options, again, could be people that are ahead of you, people that have a different perspective from you. You know, in the spiritual realm, that's apologetics, man. If you're not strong in apologetics and can't defend your faith, then you're going to take offense when somebody just challenges the book. And there's no need for that because, oh, by the way, he's already won the victory. It's already done. You don't need to, he doesn't need any help, right? And so here we are, right? We've prepared the soil, our mind. We've sown the proper seed. We're fertilizing. We're irrigating when needed. And now the final step is the harvest, right? And if farmers are diligent and consistent and patient with the preceding steps, then the final one is plentiful. The harvest is plentiful, right? As I live in Clarksville, Tennessee, and as we go through the back roads, I mean, you see right now the stalks of corn are just huge right now. Some fields have been harvested, some are not. And I'm thinking, what? Why are some, you know, done and some not? Well, lots of time that has to do with the farmer's experience, knowing that timing is essential. And Ryan had a great story about a friend that he had, that the gentleman had this vineyard, and sometimes they knew when the freeze was coming and they had to protect the crops. They knew when to pull them, or if they pulled them just a little bit too early, it wasn't going to be the right timing. They weren't going to get the plentiful harvest, right? So in personal development, in my personal growth, acquiring and utilizing the proper tools is essential when learning something new, right? The matter of timing relates to when I'm going to apply what I've learned. The harvest is about applying and realizing, yes, I have a new skill set. I have something new that I can add. Now I need to go apply it, because I cannot be a reservoir holding things in. I have to be a river where things flow through me. God has given me entirely too many gifts, or specific gifts, that I cannot keep them to myself. And so many times leaders reflect and learn and do nothing. That can't be so if you're going to have a harvest. If you're going to then reap and repeat the cycle again, then you're going to have to prepare the next soil and prepare the next seed. And that's by giving it, and giving it in abundance, so that you can continue growing. And oh, by the way, teach others also, so that they can grow, because you've been given something new, you've learned something new. So share that experience so that you can improve and improve others, and then just reapply. Then it's a matter of repetition, right? If you see in the quote down there from Zig Ziglar, don't ask that things were easier, ask that you were better, right? Things aren't going to be easy. Hey, look, the harvest is not going to be easy. The process is not easy. Of growth is never easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And if it was easy, you're probably not challenging yourself hard enough, right? If your goals don't scare you, then they're not big enough. So how are you growing? What's your process? What do you need to do to go through these processes and learn to grow? Okay, that's the bulk of it. What questions, thoughts, ideas do you have?
Luis, thank you so much. I guess I'll jump into kind of
Yes, my friend.
just re-emphasize just kind of a 10,000 foot view. This irrigation process, we can't hurry up the seasons. there's a timing to things. And you talk about patience. I know you and I in our private coaching sessions, you have disclosed, because you have here, so we're not breaching confidentiality of your patience, but the awareness of that. You can't hurry things. We can't hurry the season. We can't hurry the fall, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is this group here, I see week in and week out, by and large, about the same group. And I think there's a vision here that separates those who aren't here. And I'm not making any judgment, because we don't know. People may be busy, people are at conferences, people have family things, whatever the case may be. But I see people who come in for a very short season. We are part of a mindset where some of us have never seen a corn of ear being harvested, because we go to Vaughn's and it's there immediately, or drive-through or something. Personal development cannot be drive-through. So I'm so appreciative and impressed with this group right here, who I've seen basically since the beginning of this process. There are many who have been come in and so on, or hummingbird, but I'm telling you, the harvest is for those who are doing what this group right here is doing. There's no shortcutting a season. There's no shortcutting the process. That's number one. So patience, right? And just to finish that point of irrigation, that is so powerful when we look at that analogy and we use these picture stories, because life follows these stories, these truths. That's why life follows a corn of ear, right? Life is like, you know, a kingdom. Life is like a garden. Life is like, it is like that. So I just wanted to add the fact of, if we're conscious and aware of the irrigation, for example, of how to either drip, sometimes we need to have a little bit more of a flooding, so to speak, but just the awareness process is what allows us to go through the season so we can have harvest. And the last point of harvest is not to sit, eat, and get fat. It's to duplicate and broaden the harvest for next time, because every seed produces many, many more. If we're just consumers of the seed, then that season is done and it's over. We don't have any further seasons. Are we sowing again? That's another part of personal development, is who are we speaking? Where are we planting our seeds? Or are we just hoarding, or are we stewards of the seeds? Are we bearing it, or are we compounding it? So anyway, thank you so much for those analogies. These are just thoughts out loud, and I appreciate
Thanks, my
that.
friend. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Ryan, anything you want to add?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, man.
Man, awesome stuff, my brother. As always, you know, I love the farming analogy. You and I have talked about it quite a bit over the last handful of weeks, and you know that the cycle of life is like farming, right? There's seasons, and it's not one season for your entire life. You revisit each season, you know, repetitively, and we can, as we intentionally look to grow, we can become more effective farmers in each respective season if we focus on doing exactly that, becoming better in each season than we were in that same season previously. So I love how you've pulled all that together. And what's that?
No,
So Jared, we're in the car.
Oh,
I'm
no.
on our way back up to the leadership session up here. So yeah, I'm gonna hand this off to Jolene, because she wants to add something as well.
Well, I don't want people to be discouraged when they hear that the seasons repeat themselves. The seasons repeat themselves in nature all of the time. The reason that the seasons repeat themselves in life is because we are being trained to recognize the pattern faster, self-correct, and move forward. and that's what the growth looks like. So if you're feeling a little bit discouraged when Ryan says the seasons repeat themselves, because we've had seasons that have repeated themselves, and I'm like, crap, here we go again. But the here we go again has always been much shorter. It's always been an exponential recovery time, as well as catapult for us. So embrace those repetitions and seasons and celebrate those moments where you're able to recognize, wait, I've seen this pattern before. Here's what I need to do to correct it. So that's all I had to add.
No, thanks for sharing that.
Hey,
Thank
let
you
me
so
just
much.
let me say one last thing, Luis. So we're from the Avoria Prime side of things, we're about to enter a new season, everybody. And so the first day of this leadership mastermind has been phenomenal. There's a new addition to the C-suite with Avoria Prime who brings just another level of credibility, and we're going to probably get him on a team call. Skip knows him by virtue of association. This guy was texting back and forth with Skip yesterday. It's interesting because we talk about the seasons, and we're in this growth season right now, right? We're kind of in the really more the planting phase, right? We're sowing seed as rapidly as we can. When I say we, I'm talking like Avoria Prime as a business. And, you know, the executive team recognized, man, we're spread as thin as we can be spread. And so by virtue of one of Joshua Fair's relationships, we've been able to attract another incredible individual who's already built 2 separate billion-dollar brands in network marketing. Okay. This guy has got, again, a track record that is extremely, extremely rare. And the interesting thing is, even if they weren't spread so thin, our ability to have a harvest just went up huge because we pulled in more wisdom, right? More experience. And so I'm excited for you guys to get to hear about all that. I bring that up simply to say this. If you want to hear about what this next season, it's, you know, Sal has kind of labeled it phase 2 for Avoria Prime. It's gonna mark kind of the next, I guess, if you will, not that it fits perfectly into the farming analogy, but the next season, the next phase, we're going to do a recap call for this community tomorrow evening at 7:15 Central Time. So everybody mark that down. We'll broadcast out a link that you guys, because you showed up this morning, you're leaders, you want to grow, you're the first to know. So with that, Luis, again, thank you, man, as always, for everything you do to sow into this community. Your Saturday mornings are absolutely phenomenal, my friend, and you're very, very much appreciated.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. And I'll close it out with this. Here's your application. Does your harvest match your future hopes and dreams? If not, really, what are you sowing, right? So take time today and determine what harvest you want to reap in the future. Determine what you need to plant now to achieve that future harvest. And then put together a simple development plan. Ask someone to be your lid lifter and set up monthly and quarterly check-ins for progress and refinement. We can't go it alone. We can't do it alone. And so that's what I'll leave you with. That's the challenge for you for this next week. As we move forward, I'm going to go into a what I call my real concept: to reject passivity, expect a greater reward, accept responsibility, and lead courageously. And how we can do that in our own personal lives, in business, in any aspect of your life. So with that, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Hopefully it was a blessing for you.